Have you ever felt like the world of AI is just moving so fast it feels almost impossible to keep up sometimes? One week there's some new breakthrough, the next maybe a whole new model. It's definitely a challenge, cutting through all that noise to figure out what's genuinely groundbreaking, what really matters for how we actually live and work. Well, welcome to The Deep Dive, your shortcut, hopefully, to staying well informed. Today, we are diving headfirst into a stack of sources that seem to reveal what could be a really significant leap in artificial intelligence, maybe one of the biggest we've seen in a little while.
That's right. The big story we're unpacking today is all about GPT-5, which is OpenAI's latest AI system. And our main source material for this deep dive comes from these detailed excerpts from GPT-5, Intelligentni skak VAI. They offer a really insightful look into, well, its advanced capabilities and what this might mean for real-world applications.
Right. So our mission today isn't just to tell you what GPT-5 is. We want to dig into these sources, pull out the most important nuggets of knowledge, really, and help you grasp why this development could be a game changer for how we interact with tech. Get ready for some, I think, truly surprising facts and hopefully a few aha moments along the way.
Okay, so let's unpack this. The sources, they introduced GPT-5 not just as like a bigger, faster version of what came before. They call it a unified system. Now, that sounds pretty significant. What exactly does that mean, a unified system? How does that change how it operates?
Yeah, it's actually fascinating when you look under the hood. The engineering is quite sophisticated. Think of the AI's brain as having maybe different modes or gears. So GPT-5 is designed with this core, highly efficient model. It's incredibly smart, super quick, perfect for handling most of your everyday questions, right?
Okay, the standard stuff. Exactly. But then for those tougher problems, the really complex ones that need deep thought, it kind of shifts gears. It brings in what they call a deeper reasoning model, which OpenAI apparently calls GPT-5 thinking. Now, this deeper mode, it takes a bit longer, naturally, but the payoff is it delivers these really expert-level responses, often way beyond what we've seen before.
So it's like it knows when to sprint and when to run a marathon.
Precisely. And the genius behind this is this component called the real-time router. Think of it like a super smart traffic controller inside the AI. When you type something in, this router instantly figures out what kind of traffic it is, how complex the information needs to be, and then it intelligently sends your query to the perfect lane, the right part of the AI to get the best answer.
It's not just about complexity.
No, exactly. It looks at the conversation type, doesn't need specific tools, even your explicit intent. Like if you actually type in, think hard about this, the router catches that. And what's really clever is this router, it's always learning. It's trained on real user signals. Things like, when you manually switch models or how you rate the responses, the measured accuracy. So it's constantly improving, getting more intuitive every time you interact with it.
So, okay, for me as a user, I get this. Adaptive intelligence. It's basically figuring out how much effort to put in based on what I need, aiming for speed and depth.
That's the idea, both lightning fast answers when you need them and that profound, deep thought when the situation calls for it.
And the sources mentioned, pro subscribers get more access to that GPT-5 thinking.
That's right. The extended reasoning version is fully accessible for pro users. And interestingly, there's even a fallback. If you hit usage limits, a kind of mini version handles things. Plus, the long-term plan they mention is to integrate all of this into one single, even more efficient model down the line.
Gotcha. So this internal setup really means the AI is dynamically shifting its effort based on my specific need, speed or depth. It's like having that co-pilot who just knows when to go fast and when to settle in for the long haul. Makes sense. Okay, here's where, for me, it gets really interesting. Moving beyond just the internal workings, our sources really emphasize how GPT-5 is designed to be more useful for real-world queries, focusing on these qualitative improvements, things that change how it actually feels to interact with it. We've all had those frustrations with AI, right? So what are the key advances here that tackle those common pain points?
Yeah, that's a really important question, isn't it? How do you make AI feel less robotic, more like a reliable partner? And GPT-5 seems to take a huge leap there. First off, let's talk about reduced hallucinations.
The factual errors, that's a big one.
Huge. The sources say GPT-5's responses are roughly 45% less likely to have a factual error compared to GPT-4o, its predecessor. And get this. When it's in that deeper thinking mode, it's about 80% less likely to have a factual error than OpenAI o3 that was an earlier model before 4.0.
80%? Wow.
Yeah, the data shows a really sharp drop, especially on those open-ended fact-finding prompts. We're talking about 6 times fewer hallucinations than o3.
6 times.
Imagine using that for, say, drafting a critical report. Knowing the AI draft is almost half as likely to have a hidden error.
Yeah, that's a different level of confidence, especially for high-stakes stuff.
It's a profound shift, absolutely. Then there's the more honest responses piece.
Meaning it admits when it doesn't know something.
Exactly. It's significantly better at communicating its limits, recognizing when it just can't do a task. This is so crucial for building trust. There's a really compelling example from something called the Charsiv benchmark. OpenAI o3, that older model, apparently gave confident answers about images that didn't even exist almost 87% of the time.
Oof. Okay.
Compare that to GPT-5. Just 9% on the same test. That's a massive difference. And it translates overall, the deception rate drops from about 4.8% for o3 down to just 2.1% for GPT-5's reasoning responses.
So it's much less likely to just make stuff up.
Precisely. It's a step towards an AI that's more trustworthy, one that says, I don't know, instead of bluffing. And finally, something that really impacts the daily user experience, minimize sycophancy and a more refined style.
Sycophancy, like being overly agreeable, trying too hard to please.
Yeah, exactly that. If you've used AI a lot, you might notice it can sometimes be, well, a bit much. Too enthusiastic, maybe?
Yeah, the excessive exclamation points sometimes.
Right. So GPT-5, according to the sources, is less effusively agreeable, uses fewer unnecessary emojis, and is more subtle and thoughtful in follow-ups. The goal, they state, is for it to feel less like talking to AI and more like chatting with a helpful friend with PhD-level intelligence.
That's quite an ambition.
It is. And they've measured it a drop in those sycophantic replies from about 14.5% down to less than 6%. Plus, alongside that, improved instruction following. It's much better at handling multi-step requests, coordinating different tools, which means, practically speaking, it can get more of the work done end-to-end for you. Less babysitting the AI.
Okay, so imagine this. An AI that's not just smart, but genuinely reliable, honest, actually pleasant to interact with. An AI that tells you when it can't do something and does it calmly without trying too hard. How does that change things? Your daily workflow, how you learn, even just feeling okay, relying on it, that feels like a big shift.
It really does. It moves it from just a tool to something more like a partner.
Okay, so now let's connect all this. This improved intelligence, the better interaction style.
Yeah.
What does it actually do for you in practical terms across different areas?
Right. Let's ground this in real-world capabilities, because that's where it matters, isn't it? For anyone involved in coding, the sources call it their strongest coding model to date. Apparently, there are big improvements in complex front-end generation and debugging.
Front-end, like websites and apps.
Exactly. They give this really vivid example. Creating an entire game, a jumping ball runner single-page app from just one prompt. And it's not just about functional code. It apparently shows an aesthetic sensibility. Thinks about spacing, typography, white space, making things look good, not just work.
That's pretty cool. Code and design sense.
Yeah. Then in creative expression and writing, it's described as our most capable writing collaborator yet. It can apparently steer and translate rough ideas into compelling, resonant writing with literary depth and rhythm.
It's good for emails and reports, but also more creative stuff.
Definitely. Great for the everyday drafting, sure. But it also handles really nuanced things, like structural ambiguity. The example given is sustaining unrhymed iambic pentameter. That's like writing Shakespeare without the rhymes, keeping that strict rhythm, incredibly hard for an AI.
Whoa. Okay, that's specific.
It is. And they show this comparison using a poetry prompt about a widow in Kyoto, comparing GPT-4.0 and GPT-5. GPT-5's version apparently has a stronger emotional arc, clear imagery, and striking metaphors, like comparing grief to black flags of a country that no longer exists.
Wow, that's evocative. A real leap in creative partnership, then.
Seems like it. And then there's health. It's positioned as our best model yet for health-related questions. It acts more like an active thought partner, proactively flagging concerns, asking clarifying questions to give better answers.
But obviously not replacing a doctor.
Absolutely crucial point. The source really stresses that ChatGPT does not replace a medical professional. Instead, it's a partner to help you understand complex results, figure out the right questions to ask your doctor, weigh options. empowering you, basically.
Makes sense. Being a more informed patient.
Exactly. And beyond these, it excels in multimodal tasks: visual, video, spatial reasoning, and economically important tasks. Here's a big claim. On an internal benchmark across over 40 different jobs, law, logistics, sales, engineering, it performed comparable to or better than experts in roughly half the cases.
Half the cases. Comparable to human experts.
That's what the source material indicates. So we're talking about potential impact on productivity across a lot of fields.
So these really aren't just small steps. They add up to a tool that's genuinely more capable, more versatile for you, whether you're a pro, a student, anyone. And those benchmark scores you mentioned, 94.6% on AME 2025 math, 46.2% on Health Bench Hard. Those sound like elite level scores.
They are. These are benchmarks that previously only top human experts could really ace. Incredibly tough fields. And it's doing this efficiently, too, getting more value out of less thinking time, using 50–80% fewer output tokens than older models.
So powerful and efficient, has a potent mix, more value for your time and compute, essentially. Now, with an AI this powerful, safety obviously becomes even more critical, but also making it work for individual users, personalization. What do the sources say about the guardrails and how you can tailor your experience with GPT-5?
Right, that's the other side of the coin, isn't it? Managing these advanced models responsibly. OpenAI seems to have introduced a new safety approach they call safe completions.
Right.
So instead of just refusing a potentially sensitive query outright, which can be unhelpful, the model is now taught to give the most helpful answer possible while still staying within safety boundaries.
How does that work in practice?
Well, sometimes it might mean giving a partial answer, or it might give a very clear explanation for why it's refusing, and maybe suggest safe alternatives. It's aiming for a more nuanced, more helpful way to handle safety, rather than just a hard no.
I see. Less frustrating, potentially more informative.
Exactly. And on a more serious note, they talk about biological risk safeguards. This is pretty significant. The GPT-5 thinking model is treated as high capability in biology and chemistry domains. This triggers what they call an extreme precautionary approach. They've apparently done 5,000 hours of red teaming.
Red teaming. Like trying to break it, make it do bad things.
In a controlled way, yes. Trying to anticipate and block harmful uses. They've built multiple layers of defense, clear enforcement rules, and while they explicitly say they don't have hard evidence, it could currently help a novice create, say, a bioweapon. They're putting these heavy safeguards in place now to be ready if or when AI capabilities reach that level. It's about getting ahead of the curve on serious risks.
That sounds necessarily cautious.
Prudent.
It does. And then shifting gears to personalization, GPT-5 is apparently much better at following custom instructions you give it. But what's really interesting, and I think users will like this, is a research preview of 4 new preset personalities.
Personalities for ChatGPT.
Yeah, available for all users, apparently.
Yeah.
Cynic, robot, listener, and nerd. These are opt-in styles. You can choose if you want ChatGPT to be concise and professional, or maybe thoughtful and supportive, or even a bit sarcastic.
Without having to rate a complicated prompt yourself.
Exactly. It's about easily tailoring the interaction style to your preference, making it feel less like a generic tool and more like a collaborator who gets your vibe. Okay, so it seems these advancements aim to make the AI not just more powerful, but also safer and much more adaptable to you, to your style.
That seems to be the goal, a big step towards an AI that really understands and serves the individual user better.
So, wrapping this up, what does this all mean for you, for us, how we engage with tech day to day? It really feels like GPT-5 represents a significant leap, not just raw smarts, but practical reliability, honesty, and this much more natural, customized interaction. It seems designed to be a more valuable, more trustworthy partner, whether you're coding, writing, or even just trying to understand complex info like health stuff.
Absolutely. Connecting it back to the big picture, it really is about empowering you to be better informed, more creative, more productive. It sounds like they're genuinely trying to create that helpful friend with PhD-level intelligence the source material talks about. An AI that's both incredibly capable and, crucially, incredibly usable that could really transform how we interact digitally.
And it makes you wonder, as AI becomes this increasingly reliable, honest, maybe even personality-driven partner in our lives, something that feels less like talking to a machine and more like having an informed conversation, how might that start to change our own definitions of learning, maybe? Or knowing? What new possibilities open up when expertise and knowledge are so accessible and so personalized through an interface like this? Something to think about. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into GPT-5. We definitely encourage you to continue exploring this really exciting new frontier